Hello, everybody. I'm so happy you joined us. I know we're going to get a few latecomers coming in. And this is our time. We always start our lunch and learn with announcements of upcoming league events and community events. So before we introduce Reverend Marilyn Miller, I do want to open it up for announcements.
And this is Liz. I have an announcement. Our speaker in January, barring any unforeseen things happening, will be Dolly Grimes Johnson. Dolly ran the shelter at Sojourner Family Peace Center for, I think, about 30 years. And I have a bias here. She is the one who hired me into doing the work with domestic violence. And post-retirement, we are still hanging out with each other. We went to actually a couple of activities next week, and just looking around the room, I guess I now have to claim the title elder. And that feels funny.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other announcements, Sarah?
I have an announcement as far as the league. The league will be having, as far as I know, a program planning meeting. So to kind of plan out the year's events, trying to advocate of kind of what the league wants to do for the year and that sort of thing. So that will be happening January 19th. I thought I had it up on the website calendar, but I do not. So I'm going to have that up. I'll probably be doing it during this lunch and learn. So you guys can have all the information and that sort of thing, but it'll be Thursday, January 19th.
Will that be virtual or in person?
To be honest, I don't remember off the top of my head.
I have a feeling it will be virtual, but I am not positive either.
I kind of want to assume, but yeah.
At what time?
I'll let people know. I should have known a time. I just know the date so far.
Night? Do you know of a day or evening?
I don't.
Oh, okay. Probably.
I'll let people know in the chat though. For sure.
I think they usually have that one in the evening.
Yeah, that's usually.
Okay. Any other league announcements? Okay, I have an announcement looking for people who would like to help make sure that our neighbors get warm, brand new clothing. We will be meeting at Redeemer Lutheran, and I'll put it in the chat also. This is going to be on Thursday at 9 o'clock, and it's at Redeemer Lutheran, which is the church on 19th and Wisconsin, and it's in the Marquette area. And we have received very good brand new clothes, many boxes. And so I work with the food pantry there on Thursdays, and they asked if I would bring a posse to help sort clothes. And we will probably be there from 9 until noon. And all of you are welcome to help. It's a good feeling. It's a great group of people. And we know the outcome would be some very happy people with some nice warm boots, scarves, hats, all kind of clothing to take care of their families.
Patricia.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you might think about a backup date, because that should be when our storm is really coming through.
Thank you. I will check with the people who have more power than me, but for now it's on. Okay, so I would like us to get started, and I want to welcome everybody. And I would like to introduce Marilyn Miller, but I would first give that honor, because it is an honor to know you, Marilyn, to Barbara. Barbara suggested you, and Barbara has known you longer, and she is one of your peers. So Barbara, tell us why you suggested Marilyn Miller.
Oh, because I have known Marilyn longer than she's known me. Because she is very famous in the Lutheran Church in our, especially in our synod and across the whole ELCA for all her work on anti-racism for what, 40 or more years?
Yeah.
I don't know when you were, it was a long time ago on a paper and then teaming with Joyce Caldwell on so many anti-racist events and trainings and I don't know. Anyway, besides being a wonderful pastor at Reformation Lutheran Church for a number of years, getting ordained after retirement, going on to get seminary and getting ordained. So she has all kinds of experiences and knowledge and just a wonderful person. So,
Great. Thank you.
Agreed, agreed. And I see her, she's done anti-racism and training for the Unitarian Universalists. And we really appreciated hearing ideas on reparation. Is there a future for reparation? What would it mean? How would we do it? And also I get to observe her once a month, at least at a board meeting in Micah. And she is the former leader of Micah. So Milwaukee Inner City Congregations Allied for Hope. So friends, we welcome you today. We're so glad you're here. We will be breaking you into groups, but not at the moment. And I'm going to let Marilyn take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you. So thank you, Barbara, for the thoughts and Pat for the invitation. It's always a privilege to sit in circle with women because our journey is a unique one in this world. And I'm honored to be among you. So I certainly want to start our time off together in the spirit of the women who came before us. I lift up Sojourner Truth and Ida B. Wells and Mary Church Terrell, women of African descent who were a part of the journey and the history many years ago, and whose legacy I stand on and enter into the work that I do with. So I consider any time that we get to spend together in any kind of group or setting as holy and sacred time. We undervalue each other way too much in this world. And so I want you to, I encourage you to accept this gift of time together as holy. So Joyce and I, Dr. Joyce Caldwell and I have done this work for many, many years, and we've done it from a faith-based context. So both she and I come from the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and we have spent a lot of time agitating and working and educating in this church body and others. But for me, it's extremely important that we don't just take these holy words that we, read at our sacred times, and we read them and we're in the moment when they're being read, and then we put them on the shelf until we come back to those holy times again. That's a problem for me, because this is what we should be living every day. And my question is always for us, how deep are we living these words? And do they really come to life for us, right? Not just read it and say, oh, that's so nice, that's sweet, oh, I'm grateful that we had that, but are you living it? Because I find a huge challenge in our religious institutions is we talk the talk, but we don't walk the walk. Because if we were walking the walk, our institutions would look very different. Amen? I mean, even your organization, when we look at the population in the city of Milwaukee and who you claim you want to be, the words that you say about diversity and equity and inclusion, and yet you're still predominantly a white women's institution. There's a lot of work to be done. So, you know, that's what I want you to think about as we're doing this work today. So I always say, you know, we take from it the work for our own personal selves, but we also need to take from it the what needs to be done so that our institutions can change. Because otherwise, you know, the application of it, if we don't do the application of it, we're not going deep enough with it. So my hope and prayer for you, really, this organization, and it is long, deep, and hard work, you know, that 10 years from now, these circles will look very different. And that there really, really will be the transformational change, and that you really, really will do the work that's necessary for that to happen. You are the ones that have to do it. Nobody else can do it for you. You're aware of that. So we're going to immerse ourselves in this text. And we're going to start with Sarah's going to break. It looks like there's like 9 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So Sarah, if you will, somebody else is coming on.
And Mary Gleason just joined us.
Okay, so we'll let Mary get in. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then that'll shift our conversation a little bit, but that's okay. So Sarah, if you can put them in when I ask you to, in 2 groups of 5. So here's your instructions. The first time you go into this group is just for a couple of minutes. That's all I want them in there for, Sarah. And you're going to count off from 1 to 5. That's your job. Okay. So Sarah, put them in 2 groups and we'll count off from 1 to 5.
I'm sorry, we're counting off right now in order.
Yeah, I want 2 groups of 5.
Okay, so you want us all to unmute and give ourselves a number?
She'll put you in your 2 groups, put them in the 2 groups and separate them out. And then
Okay.
let them count off from 1 to 5 while they're in those groups, and then bring them back.
Oh,
You got it?
sounds good. All right,
Yeah.
here we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don't put me in a group.
Uh-oh. Looks like you and I are in a group.
No, we shouldn't be
No.
in a group. Pat should be in a group, but not me.
Yep, I think, Pat, you have to click join potentially.
So what mine says is hold B to broadcast your voice to all rooms.
She
Oh,
may- because
All right, let me try again. Let me try again. See if I can get into B. Well, I'm gonna try it.
okay, yeah, because it was 2 groups, should be 2 groups.
Yeah, and it might default to because Pat's the
Because
host.
she's a host, right?
right, so it might
Right.
default to her
Well,
not.
that's okay, because Pat, you and I can have the conversation
Oh,
together.
all right, cool. All right, great.
We'll
all right,
just meet,
you.
we'll have 1 group of 4 and 1 group of 5, and that's okay.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, they should have counted off by now, Sarah, so you can bring them back.
Oh, that was quick.
Yep, I just need them to
I'm
count.
gonna
off.
say, yep,
Bringing you back, she says. Okay, cool. Okay, good.
now when they've been given 60 seconds to, okay.
Yep.
Hopefully people will say leave room and come on back.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so hopefully everybody wrote their number down, so you know who you are. So there should be a 1 to 4 and a 1 to 5. 1 group had 4 and 1 group had 5.
Okay,
And I think we're waiting for Mary Gleason to come back.
Oh, Mary, we lost Mary.
Really?
Okay.
I'm
all right.
trying to see if
Is-
I can manually bring her back, but it,
Oh, okay.
so I think we can wait for 18 seconds and she'll be back automatically.
okay,
Okay.
cool. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Barbara, you're on mute.
Just saying, if she comes back, she's probably meant to be in our group because we only had 4.
Okay. Well,
her
you
number
might
would
have been
be
because
5.
we ended up keeping Pat out because she's a co-host. She didn't go into a group, so we thought she would. There's Mary.
Good. Okay.
Okay. So Mary, did you get a chance to count off with a group? Yes. Okay.
Okay, she's nodding. Good. Okay.
Okay. So does everybody have a number? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?
Yep.
Yes? Okay. So I am going to read the text, and this is how I want you to listen to the text. Your numbers represent your character in the story. So when you listen to this, you need to be thinking about, feeling, wondering what that experience was for that person, because that is the character you are going to assume. When we come out of the reading, Sarah's going to put you back into those small groups for about 5 minutes. And when you go back into those small groups, I want you to talk to each other. First person, I statements. This is how I felt. This is what I thought. This is how I feel about you based on your experience in the story. Okay, is everybody clear on that?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, so this is the parable of the laborers in the vineyard, taken from Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. For the kingdom of heaven is like a
tell us-
landowner.
Didn't tell us who we are, or weren't you gonna tell us?
No,
No, this
you,
is
you, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Barbara. I'm getting ahead of myself. Thank you. So number ones, you came first thing in the morning. You were chosen first thing in the morning. Okay. If you're a number 2, you were chosen about midday. Okay. If you're a number 3, you came at the end of the day. So you were chosen about 5 o'clock. It was almost over, and you got chosen. If you're a number 4, you are the manager. And if there's a 5, you are the landowner. So there might be 1 5. Who's a 5? All right, Mary, you're the landowner. Okay. All right, so listen to the story from that context. And then when you go into those small groups for about 5 minutes, you're going to talk to each other, tell each other how you feel about what happened. Okay. So the laborers in the vineyard, Matthew 21 to 16. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them out into his vineyard. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And he said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right. So they went. When he went out again about noon and about 3 o'clock, he did the same. And about 5 o'clock, he went out and found others standing around. And he said to them, why are you standing here idle all day? They said to him, because no one has hired us. He said to them, you also go into the vineyard. When evening came, The owner of the vineyard said to his manager, call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first. When those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now, when the first came, they thought they would receive more, but each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, these last work only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat. But he replied to one of them, friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to this last the same as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first and the first will be last. Okay, so she's gonna put you back in your groups, talk to each other. We're gonna give you about 5 minutes.
And I think you guys have to hit join to go to your rooms. And this time I did set it up where they're gonna, when I say close all rooms to bring them back, they will be brought back then.
Okay,
I found a setting.
okay.
Oh,
All
thank
right.
you, Sarah.
Yep.
12:27, so we'll give them about 5 minutes.
Perfect.
Okay. So Pat, as you listen to that story,
Yeah,
we didn't give you a number. So what do you, where would you see yourself in that story?
I want to be the feisty complainer.
Okay,
And I would be saying, I agreed to work for this salary, but I had no idea that there was going to be such inequity working with you. And I am thinking we needed a union here where we would have a very clear contract. So what would you say to me, boss?
well, it's always funny because people always make that, what is it, a leap from first century,
Yeah.
right, to a union, right? There was no unions.
Right.
So, good luck with that. That's all I can say.
Right. Yep.
Right.
So one thing.
So you picture yourself as being one of the ones chosen early in the day?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Okay.
aware of what was going on and upset and feel used
Mm.
and manipulated and exhausted. And also, as I'm thinking we need a union here, I'm hoping I can still feed my family. And this person is not going to make it impossible for me to get future jobs as a laborer. And I have had direct experience in organizing 3 unions. So,
So you would be a person that they would want on their team.
yeah, we'll see if we get any more. This is a pretty feisty group.
Yeah,
And I think we'll hear some people who are
that
the
would be
ones.
going in that direction. Sarah,
Yeah.
how about you? When you think about this story, like, where do you see yourself? And you think about, like, where do you think you came into the story? First, middle, last?
I guess maybe middle,
Mm-hmm.
like midday maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was trying to remember then in the story of if the people that started their day did they already know that they were starting their day, or were they just
They were all waiting in the marketplace.
okay, they were all just waiting to kind of
They were all standing there.
I see.
Yeah, so if
I
you
mean-
see yourself as middle,
Yeah, I guess maybe middle, but maybe one of the first ones.
okay.
I don't know. It's hard to, if you're thinking of like time and place, right? 'Cause what you'd said of like first century, right? In okay, well, I need to work for the
Right,
like I need to get my day's earnings.
right.
So somebody saying, hey, I'm hiring, come to the vineyard. In theory, I feel like I'd probably be one of the first ones because yep, perfect. I got hired. I'm doing the job. Not even thinking, well, hopefully if I wait around, somebody will still hire me and hold the same amount, or maybe I do want to wait around because maybe I'm not feeling well that day.
So how did you feel about the fact that you got the same amount of money as the people who didn't come until 5 o'clock?
I mean, obviously, I think I would feel betrayed in a way, because of had anyone known beforehand, everyone would have waited.
But except that you were chosen, so
Okay,
you
right,
didn't have control. So
right,
so that's gotta think about that, right?
that's true.
So because we like to think, how would
We
it
get a
be if
choice.
we were in control?
Right.
But you weren't in control.
Yeah, and if there's no choice, right.
Right.
And I was also thinking too about fairness, right? Like we as people right now, we want to think about what's fair and fairness. And that's not the context of the time.
Yes.
It's either, and I was even thinking of Pat, you would suggesting of starting a union and that sort of thing. And what happens, if the landowner or the manager, you could get blackballed and say,
Right,
blacklisted and say, that's, we're never going to hire that person again. They're trouble, and then
And they might tell all the other landlords.
right.
yes.
Hey,
Right.
no,
Yep.
not that one. I mean,
Right.
these are realities. So when we start thinking about now,
Yeah.
this is reality for people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So will it automatically bring them back, Sarah, or do you have to bring them back?
I have to bring them back.
Okay, so bring them back.
Do you want them right now or should we wait?
Yeah, bring them back in.
Okay.
Yeah, it's enough time.
All right. I'm going to broadcast to them.
Okay.
So, Marilyn, do you hear people talk about I'd feel guilty if I got in there at 5
Sure.
PM and I saw
Sure.
people? Yeah,
Sure. Yep, all those emotions.
right. It's a great analogy to use that.
Yeah, I'm gonna close my shade here.
Sure.
All right. Welcome back.
All right, we're back. Okay, we're gonna take a little bit of feedback, not a whole lot, but a little bit. So number twos. Whoever's number two. Okay, how did you feel? What did you think about what happened? So Mary, you want to start and then we'll go to Pat.
Well, my initial feeling was it put me back to mind of working for many years. I'm retired now.
Okay, first person, you got to talk first person.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
I felt it brought me back to thinking about myself as an employee,
Mm-hmm.
and how that was and how I measured myself against other people.
Oh, okay.
So that was just, it brought me back.
Okay. All right. Pat, what about you?
Well, I said that I was disappointed because
Mhm.
I had been glad to find work partway through the day. And I got the pay that was promised me. But when I saw the people at the end of the day get paid the same as me, I was anticipating that I would get a bonus for having been there longer. And that didn't come through. So it kind of eroded my gratitude at having a full day's pay and getting work, and started me feeling a little disappointed and unsatisfied because I didn't get the same as the person next to me.
Okay, all
Who
right.
came
thank you.
later.
All right, number threes. Who's number threes? Okay, so Lindsay, why don't you start and then Pastor Barbara?
Okay, so as a number three, I came late, but I got the full pay. Now, I didn't expect that. I was very, very happy. And when I saw how upset the others were, I really wanted to share my good fortune with them, even though I have a family too. But that was my feeling about it.
All right, thank you. Pastor Barbara?
I have to say I had two feelings because first I was accused, like, why are you standing here idle at the end of the day? What? I've been here wanting to work. So you come in and accuse me. What are you doing here? So, but it quickly changed when I worked for a little while and got a full day's pay. I can change my attitude, and that's fine. I don't care about the rest of them. I got what I needed. So.
All right, thank you very much. All right, number ones. Where's my number ones?
I am upset.
Okay. Woo, woo. Okay. You're
Totally
upset?
unfair.
Okay.
If I'd known it was gonna turn out this way, I wouldn't have come.
Oh.
Early bird is supposed to get the worm, not
Mm.
share it.
Ooh. Ooh. Ouch. Okay. Mary?
Well, I agreed to the terms and I was happy to be picked and happy to go on board. And I got what I was promised, but
Mhm.
I feel that it was unfair that people who came very late in the day got exactly what
Mhm.
I got. And I was there, crack of dawn or whenever the whole thing started. So that was kind of my feeling. And in one way, I wasn't deceived, but when I compared the amount that I worked with what others had done, it seemed inequitable,
Yeah.
to put a fancy word on it.
Okay. She's using big words on us, y'all. Okay. All right, number fours. Managers. Okay, so I see Sherry's hand and Jerry. Okay, so Sherry, why don't we start with you and then Jerry will go with you.
So Jerry, you can unmute.
I have to be honest, I did not use I statements. I was just like defending the landowner.
Okay.
I said the landowner probably wanted to make sure that everybody's family was fed. I just did what I was told.
Okay. All right. Jerry?
Well, my thoughts were that, first of all, it was hiring by salary, not by hours per dollars per hour.
Okay.
Second of all, the first people knew automatically that day that their family was going to be fed.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the stress of doing the work, but they don't have the stress of worrying about their family.
Mm-hmm.
The last person, it gets a little tight there that maybe my family isn't going to work tonight, isn't going to eat tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So, so they've got a lot more stress in their day, even though the work is less.
Mm-hmm.
So they really don't, that both sides, or neither side, I should say, has anything to gripe about. They, like I said to begin with, they were paid by salary, not per hour.
Not per hour. Okay, thank you. Landowner, what do you have to say to everybody?
And Mary, you have to unmute.
Yeah, unmute.
What I have to say is that I own the land, I needed workers. I basically thought I was being generous just to take care of everybody. I didn't anticipate that there'd be so much bad feelings and confusion. And although I thought about it and felt a little bad about it, the bottom line is everybody got paid and it's the manager's job to deal with people's feelings.
Okay. Yeah, it kind of sounds like real life, right? It kind of sounds like what we really deal with. So, you know, that's a little of a fun way to just enter a text, feel it, think it, experience it. But now we want to go a little deeper. So we sent out questions. I hope all of you either took a picture of it or hopefully somebody in your group will have the questions. So normally we spend a lot more time letting people talk through these. We're only gonna take, we're gonna give them 12 minutes, Sarah, 12 minutes. And there's a whole list of questions for you to just pick from what you would like to share on. But the first question might be a good one to just go around the first time and have everybody say, with whom do you identify with in this text? Because it gives your sisters kind of a perspective of where you come from as you think about this society, this world we're living in right now. Where do you feel like you come into the story? Were you first? Were you middle? Were you last hired? Were some of you put in the management position? Or were you the company owner? And that's a whole different perspective to the story. So we'll take 12 minutes, just pick out from this whatever you want to share on, make sure everybody gets to share something, and then we'll just have a come back and share. Mary, I see your hand up.
Yes. Are these questions that you mentioned in
I
the
had
chat?
sent them out. We had sent them out. No, she didn't send them out.
I'm afraid it didn't go out. I passed it on to the league. Oh, okay, some of you got it.
Okay.
Can you give me a few that I can write in the chat? I write fast.
Okay, so the first question is just based on your experience. So just thinking about who you are, who do you identify with? So who do you identify with? First, middle, last hired, manager, or the manager? Okay. And the second question is, so based on the messages that you've received in our society, and you think about the other people in our society, then who's first, who's middle, who's last? So the first is about you. The second question is looking at our society and looking at how things are set up. Who's considered first? Who's considered in the middle? Who's considered last? And who defines these roles? Right? Okay. Then next, where and how do you see the attitudes of the workers played out in real life? So thinking about your experiences, the things you said, situations you found yourself in, where have you seen these attitudes played out? Just because we've heard some of this language before. It's what we said, it's not new stuff. It's people can relate to this because of situations they've been in. So did you get the second one?
Yep.
Okay. And then the attitudes. And then finally, when you think about this parable, what meaning or messages speak to us today, especially as we think about our racial equity work? What of these, the messages, the things that came out in this parable speak to us today about maybe what we need to address? This parable, we use this parable to talk about what we call the pain of comparison. The pain of comparison. There's a great deal of pain in comparison, and we're taught to do this. So that's what I want you to talk about. Let's take 10 minutes, put them into groups, 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and just let rise up whatever rises up. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Can you put us back in groups?
Yep, everyone should see their join buttons now.
Okay, great. All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I do have the
You're
breakout
great.
rooms. Since you said 10, well, first you said 12, right? And then
I know, but I kind of talked a little
Yep,
bit.
yep,
'cause I
yep, yep.
wanted-
So I automatically even shortened it. So this time then you can see now there's a countdown clock on it.
Oh, good.
So I already put 10 minutes on the clock.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you,
So
Sarah.
they should all see the countdown and everything too.
Good.
And
Yeah.
automatically bring them back. If I
Yeah.
choose to try to close it early, I put then like a 30-second countdown just to kind of
Yeah,
help.
so we'll give them the 10 minutes. Normally,
Yeah.
it would have been a little bit longer, but that's why I said this goes really, really fast, and that's why it's like
Mhm.
you know it takes. So, thinking about these questions, ladies,
Yeah.
you know, where do you land on this? You know, these questions. So, your experience, messages you've received of who's first, middle, last.
Yeah. I feel like I identify as the laborer,
Mhm.
just with my experience. I came from a pretty, I would say middle class, maybe lower to middle class,
Mhm.
working family. So, you know, we didn't have, I'm thinking of like landowner, right? We didn't have
Right.
income property, you know, we didn't own any other, you know, things, that sort of thing.
Did you all own a home?
We did. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we did. And I'm trying to think who defines these roles. Yeah, so I feel like I always seen kind of I would say like managers, authority figures kind of being who's considered first or who's
Mhm. Mhm.
valuable.
Mhm.
You know, however, you always, at least with me, always thinking, you know, well, there's a way, you know, we're kind of, we as a society, we're in this together. So, you know, we should have rights. We do have rights, that sort of thing, right? However, the way I've seen things play out, especially with my, more of like my professional role, I used to work with individuals experiencing homelessness and homelessness. So a lot of landlord tenant kind of mediation.
Yeah.
And I started that in like 2011, 2012,
Mhm.
and continued doing that probably until like 2016.
Mhm.
Even so, within even that 4 years, I could see a dramatic difference of how rights were being stripped away from tenants.
Yes.
More power was given to the landlord.
Yes.
And I get it and I don't get it. I'm always both sides. So it really ground my gears when the law got passed, and I haven't been keeping up on it, so I don't know if it got changed, but there was a law that was passed that basically said with landlords, they can basically just kick you out if they have a suspicion that you are involved in any illegal activity, not even that has to happen on the property. Doesn't even have to be a person that's on the lease.
Wow.
It's literally written without due cause or due process of any evidence of it.
Right. I mean,
So
yeah. Huge.
So that's complete. I mean, completely takes out any sort of rights.
Right.
At least
Exactly.
you don't
So
have any rights.
it's fascinating. It is just fascinating. So Pat, what are your thoughts when you
So
think
I
about
had
that?
2 experiences.
Mhm.
Until 8, I was part of the middle class. My dad was very popular and he was a legislator in Dodge County. And he was a businessman and he was successful. He was a church leader. And then he died suddenly at 39 of a heart attack.
Wow.
Now I had a widow,
Hmm.
39, with all five kids under
Wow.
10. So my
Wow.
life went from here is security to, oh my God, paycheck to paycheck. Mom cries every month trying to pay the bills. Mom is paid half of what her coworkers are earning, and they tell her it's because they have a family. So my mom would say, well, you know, I call Jack, Pat, Denny, Peg, and Maureen my family, and I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And I'm not taking benefits because I wanted to show my children to be strong.
Mm.
So I saw that, and yet she raised us to be socialists and feminists and union organizers. And she didn't think that's where she came from, but she had that Republican farm girl, rugged independence.
Yes.
And then that all merged into now we're Democrats and we're fighting for the common law. We're fighting for the common good. So I have seen both sides, but when you watch mom cry every month trying to figure out how to pay, you will never forget.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
that's ingrained. How am I going to pay? How am I going to support my family?
Yeah.
How
Well,
about you, Marilyn? How did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in the middle class. And it was an interesting neighborhood because I grew up on 13th and Vine, and clearly I knew it was who had and who didn't have,
Mhm.
right? It was real clear based on just looking at the families and looking at their conditions and you know where they were, that there was really, I mean, even then, even though it was a segregated neighborhood, it was predominantly Black.
Yeah.
You still could just see the class piece, you know. So that's something that early on I became aware of. And, you know, certainly my dad was a union man. So worked for Falk Corporation.
Yep.
You know, so we learned, you know, that you have to stand up for your rights. You know, it is a fight. It's
Yes.
not a given. And unfortunately, a lot of people are still fighting for their rights.
Right.
You know, they're just still fighting. Like we said, women are still fighting for equitable pay. We still don't have equitable pay in this country. So this laborer piece is a messy piece, you know, and so there's things that we still have to be mindful of. You know, how do we consider, like you said, sometimes we get jealous of people we shouldn't be getting jealous of.
Right.
Every worker was there at the same time. Some got chosen and some didn't get chosen. And so we forget that very quickly when we start comparing ourselves with each other and thinking, well, I should get more, I should do this. Wait. You know, everybody was standing there wanting to work at the same time. Then
That's
we
a
have to
good
look
point.
at, and then look at what happens when like immigrants come to this country. And we see all kind of messiness that comes with the employment of people. And then we see the way we get set up against each other. That is in the system.
Yeah.
That is systemic.
Yeah.
And this is the stuff that we have to look at. And then to be very careful that we don't start playing into those roles.
Yes.
Right? Because we can get sucked into those mindsets very quickly of the them and us kind of, you know, it's, you know, we're against them. They're getting more than us. So it's a lot to think about. And certainly, you know, as you all do your work, I just keep thinking, you know, how are you going to break open this tough nut of equity so that your organization looks like Milwaukee County?
Yep.
Because it doesn't.
No.
And it's very hard, intentional work. The question is, you know, how do you strategize and organize to do that? You guys have been great at the strategy and organizing in terms of, you know, women's rights. But this next, to me, it's the deeper dive that you all have to really look at. Like, okay, why is it that we're still so white?
Right.
And there's so many women of color around us that you're not in relationship with.
Yeah.
And my
Mhm.
question is, how are you going to build those relationships? Because until you do that, until the trust that was broken, and this is the really hard thing, women of color have not forgotten what happened to them when white women got the vote.
Yes.
And
I was
white
just
women
thinking
have to remember that's a historical truth, and that harm has to be repaired.
Right.
And that's
Right.
work. That's your work.
Yep. I was thinking about that same thing, Marilyn, too, as far as, 1920, women get the right to vote. And, that's been ingrained in us or ingrained in.
Mhm.
And then when I was doing race work too and reflecting inward and, with research and all that too, it's like, no, women didn't. White women did.
Yes.
That
Yes.
was it. It was one small piece, but
Yeah.
again, talk about society as
Yeah.
far as kind of what is seen as all of society
Yes.
has always been the default.
Yeah.
And
So
it
yeah,
shouldn't
that's what
be.
we get to think about that stuff and figure out, right? What are we gonna do about it? So ladies, we got a few minutes. What rose up? Let's just put out there a few of the thoughts that came up, because it's 12:57 according to my computer. So let's take a few, just unmute yourself and jump in. Your
Popcorn
thoughts.
One of the thoughts that came up in our group is how our religious beliefs affect our attitudes, and also how some can use that against you,
Yes.
and you don't realize it at the time.
Wow. Thank you.
Another thought that came up really was, it is how the on the line workers are the ones who have to deal with all these feelings between people that, the landowner certainly doesn't have to, the owner doesn't have to. But I'll just speak for the on the line worker. It is hard for the online workers who do their job to deal with people that are brought in who don't or don't take it seriously, or in my case, being a social worker, who don't spend the time or have the respect for the people that they're dealing with. Although I personally couldn't have I didn't change how I did things. So it didn't affect how I did things, but it was emotional watching other people who didn't put in the time and effort.
Thank you.
I think sometimes the people who work the longest and the hardest are often the worst paid. And if you think about the corporate structure and executive bonuses and all of this, and the people who are really, hands-on, making the engine roar, so to speak, they get paid less.
Yes.
And they work longer and make proportionately less to some other people who are at the helm of power.
Yeah. So there's great inequity, huge inequity in the system, the way it's set up.
Right.
And the way it's held in place. Yeah. Yeah, Sherry, unmute yourself.
One of the things I said was, I looked at it from a religious standpoint, and I feel like living in the United States is like being the 5 o'clock worker, because we are so blessed to be living in this country and compared to a lot of other places. And so, that's me and Lindsay thought we could relate with all the different people, but I mostly at this point in my life, I feel like a 5 o'clock worker.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a huge piece for us to think about, because even the people who are at what we look at as the bottom rung of the ladder in this nation are rich compared to people in many other places in the world. I mean, I know when I went to Africa, one of the things that just caught my attention was there's no food pantries. You don't get to go, even if you're poor, you don't get to go to a food pantry to get some food. If there's a drought, everybody in that community suffers because there is no backup. There is no group of people from the suburbs who are going to come in and bring some food. It ain't gonna happen. So there's huge differences, and we forget about that. We just forget it because we're living. So to again to be mindful of what we do, how we do it, where we spend our money, who we support in spending our money is critical when we talk about equity. So I'm gonna just wrap up. First of all, thank you, ladies, for engaging in this. I always find it just fascinating to talk about these kind of stories, and then what do they say to us today? In closing, there's a couple of things. I guess first of all, to be mindful of the struggle was not that they were paid equal. They said, you made them equal to us. You made them equal to us. And I think that's a huge part of white supremacy that has to be examined and confronted and repented of. And that's an ongoing piece of work, because a lot of white people that I have worked with they still have to undo all that stuff that's been put in their heads about superiority. It's an ongoing challenge. So that's a piece that I want to encourage you all to work on. And as you think about your organization, I want to encourage you to be really intentional. I don't know what you do about your strategic plans or how you do that work, but if you want something different to happen in the next 5 years, you guys are going to have to do some things differently, because it hasn't changed who you are. You're still a predominantly white women's organization, and there's a whole lot of women of color that are not in your circle. And you need to keep saying why. And what can we do about that? And you're the ones that have to do it. Nobody else is going to do it. I was saying with Sarah and Pat, that historical hurt for when white women got the vote, and basically, women of color didn't get it with you. That's a deep wound. And that has to be admitted. It has to be repented of. It has to be talked about, because there's issues of trust that go with that. And I believe that's a central piece to why we haven't been able to crack this stuff, because there is not trust between us. So I want to encourage you all to really think about, how do you rebuild the trust that was broken between you and women of color? Because we can't go back to the past, but what are you going to do about it now? And how are you going to build those relationships now so that you actually can be co-conspirators together? Because we need each other. We can't do it alone. No, that's the reality of it. So I thank you all so much for this privilege and opportunity, and many blessings on your holy days and your walk through the rest of this year, and blessings on 2023 for each and every one of you. And thank you for inviting me to join you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Take care, ladies.
I would just like to send a greeting. If you have to leave, you won't hurt my feelings. But this is one of the Christmas wishes that I like. May we break down boundaries, tear down walls, and build on the foundation of goodness inside of each of us. May we look past differences, gain understanding, and embrace acceptance. May we reach out to each other rather than resist. May we be better stewards of the earth, protecting, nurturing, and replenishing the beauties of nature. May we practice gratitude for all we have rather than complain about our needs. May we seek cures for the sick, help for the hungry, and love for the lonely. May we share our talents, give our time, and teach our children. May we hold hope for the future very tenderly in our hearts and do all we can to build for a bright tomorrow. And may we love with our whole hearts, for that's the only way to love. And so, Pastor Marilyn, I thank you. You are a wonderful challenge to us and an inspiration. And if you want to unmute and just say a word of gratitude, please do so.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Welcome.
Thank you
Right.
very much.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to seeing y'all in 2023.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, all
Thank
right.
you.
To come
Take
back.
care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Okay, stay strong, my friends.
All right, you too.
Gratitude, Marilyn, gratitude.